Is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 174. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. You were sitting here Monday morning, Austin, Texas, defeated Austin, Texas. At least after Saturday, we'll talk through the first team's loss at the hands of Toronto. We'll, of course, touch on last business day, victorious last business day. A couple of pieces of news in between. Also previewing Wednesday's match at LAFC. Getting ahead of myself here, though. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm tired, boss. That's for sure. Just incredibly disappointed. Talked a lot of shit about Toronto. I did in particular, and we were unable to back it up, which is just so frustrating. And I felt like we were right there and things were looking better. And now you have these last two results, even though things looked much better in this matchup as compared to the Vancouver game. But still, it's a fickle game and a tough sport, and you can outshoot your opponent and out XG them and not get 3 points when you really, really need them. So I am down in the dumps for certain.
Yeah. And we'll talk through it all, right? So typical, and maybe even just a little bit more intense in terms of the therapy session vibes of this recap. Because it is not going anybody's way who's cheering for the Verde and Black. Before we jump into today's episode, of course, just want to remind you all that the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio version of this episode wherever you get your podcasts. You can go the extra mile by rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the show on those platforms. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. That also helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the diminishing playoff hopes of the North End. Ian, before we get into the Toronto match and everything that followed, there's a couple fun things last week. First of all, congratulations to the Gallaghers, new parents as of Wednesday night. So the Verde family grows by one. To see John be able to come out and play off the bench in that Toronto match, heck of a week for the guy, man. Iron Man, just add another category in the way we think about this man doing everything possible for the club and family.
Yeah, this is a new level, new achievement unlocked for Johnny G there for sure. And I hope everything is going fantastic with that and his wife and his child. And just wish them a lifetime of happiness with that little bugger on the way there.
Yeah, we also had the EAFC 25, right? So FIFA, for those of you, the veterans out there of the sticks. We had the FIFA 25 ranks come out, and they did a little kind of reveal video. I will say, last year's video was a little bit more fun for me. We had Maxi Arruti and Danny Pereira last year going around on the practice field interviewing their teammates with their little player cards. This year was like a sit down with Seba and Bukhari and Dessler and Bradley Scott Stuver. But from those ratings, you and I, we pick up the sticks from time to time. And just a couple things that stuck out to us. First of all, I think the lowest rating I can find on here, one of them, look, I know Matt Hedges is past the prime, right? Still been starting for us, and I think he's been doing okay. But a 39 pace? That's like this. They say this guy can't move at all. We can't get this man to 45. Sub 40 pace there. I mean, and John Gallagher, 64 overall. That is just disrespectful. As is I know he hasn't done much, right? Has one goal contribution in his young career, but a 52 for CJ Fodre. Look, I know the folks over there at EA Sports are not super locked in to MLS or certainly Austin FC, but I don't know, man. Maybe you could hire the North End Podcast, some other people from around MLS to give our biased input. Just come on, we can't have a guy like CJ to 52. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you want to see a 98 Stuver, you come to us.
Yeah.
Look, we love FIFA. That is our game. We play FIFA all the time. I don't think I play any of the video games at this point outside of FIFA. And I can't even imagine trying to, scout dudes across the entire world with so many players and get the ratings right. And then you see them and it's like Bukari is the same overall rating as Diego Rubio. And we're just sitting there and like he's not as fast as Jader Obrian on there. And it's just like, okay, well, like this is really, really off. But I mean, that's it. It's a small blip on the radar in regard to what's going on in the 5-1-2 right now. But I'm excited to play with them, regardless once we eventually procure that game.
I was gonna say, that download's gonna hit the queue pretty soon here in a couple of weeks, and we'll be getting a little bit more intimate there with FIFA 25. All right, put that in the rear view. Let's get into this
Here
one.
We go.
And again, look like we had some good vibes in my eyes headed into this one because that media availability on Thursday. Coach Wolf says Danny arrived this morning, came out there, got a little sweat, but other than being a little bit tired from the international travel, he should be good to go and gave the rest of the team a clean bill of health. He did hint at Driussi being up there at the 9, but then once we get to the lineup, Driussi's back in the midfield. I think this lineup that we see, is pretty much what I gleaned as the desire from the majority of the fan base, right? Get Seba back in the midfield. Get Giassi Zardes back up there, a traditional striker. I think most people would say that Owen Wolf should be the odd man out in that midfield. So we do get that when the lineup drops an hour before match time. Giassi Zardes up top. We did have Jader Obrian starting opposite Osman Bukari with you think because probably John Gallagher, right, has the newborn a few days earlier. But regardless, right, you were already discussing that you wanted to see Jader over there. You slide Driussi back into that midfield with Ring wearing the armband and Danny. Same back four, Dessler, Heinzike, Hedges, Biru, Brad Stuver in net. You get the bench, right, still Kolmanich and Leo Väisänen left off the team sheet. Valencia, Jimenez, Rubio, Svatak, Cleveland, Gallagher, Wolf, Cascante, Finley were the bench. Again, I thought it was good vibes headed into the match.
I mean, that is outside of wanting a Svatak start, which can we do some sort of, search on this man? Where is he? Is he okay? Is he?
So I actually have theories from other people who have been a little bit more plugged into that, like trying to dive into it. Apparently, Nipro, again, we went through the pronunciation episode when he was signed. I believe what I saw was that that area, so his hometown, has been recently bombarded by Russia. And that is, of course, putting him in maybe a space where it's maybe not best for him to be playing right now. Again, that is speculation on my part through other parties. So if I have that wrong, I apologize. But then I would think it's a little admirable for the club to kind of just be saying like, hey, he's dealing with the heat or whatever, instead of getting into all that. But regardless, right? And we hope that ends as soon as possible.
Of course.
Regardless, I still want to see the guy play when he's ready, because we think he's going to be bought him to be our best center back, I think, right?
Exactly, dude. I mean, you say Leo's not on the team, and we don't get a Svatak, and we were both under the impression, as I think most people were, that those were going to be our two linchpin kind of center backs for this back line to really control this thing. And like, obviously, that is as valid of a reason to not be in the right headspace to play a fucking soccer game. So I understand that for sure. And if that's how the team has approached it in regard to saying, he's just not there yet, it's hot, he's getting acclimated, and they're covering up for that, I'm all for it, because obviously there's much more important things in this game. But at the same time, it's just incredibly disappointing when you see no Leo and you're not getting any Svatak minutes. And like I said, those are the two guys we were hoping to rely on for this back line. So I get it. Back to the lineup, got a bit sidetracked there. I called for Jader. I called for G at the 9. I called for Seba back at the 10. So when I see this lineup, that's exactly what I wanted. And like, I was like, okay, here we are. We've done the false 9 kind of thing with Seba up there, and it had different results, varying results, but after the Vancouver performance and the amount of time that this team has left to make headway towards that final playoff spot, you have to kind of just try some new things here. And I was excited to see it. I wanted to see G up there again because I thought the veteran presence, who G is, how he conducts himself, was going to be something good for this team. And look, I don't think it was the wrong lineup. You know what I mean? Like I can't sit here despite the result and be like, oh, this was not the choice 11 that we should have had out there, despite the fact that we didn't get a single point up there in Toronto. So I thought it was the right call. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be guaranteed 3 points. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I thought it was the most, like, for lack of a better term, right, the right lineup, the most pragmatic lineup of the guys we have available. I think it was. And again, as we go through this, if you're listening to the North End podcast, you watched the match, or at least the highlights, right? And you saw what we saw, right? There's a lot of chances we're about to get into. But this match starts off, and the way it starts off here in the 5th minute, maybe I should have known, because yellow card to Brendan Heinzike gets tangled up with DeAndre Kerr in the midfield. And, like, I think this yellow card, number one, seems soft. And I think you also could have called this foul on Kerr, because both of those guys are tangled up here. But the most important thing that comes from this, not only is one of your starting center backs on a yellow from the 5th minute, Heinzike was also on caution. So he's suspended for Wednesday, and there's one man down.
Yep. And I mean, that's the first man down in the lineup that we're going to have to get through here as we go throughout the course of this game. And it comes back to the disciplinary things that we've been chatting about for a long time, and the fact that this team is now actively shooting themselves in the foot. I thought it was a quick one, honestly, particularly in how physical that play, that kind of combat was. Both guys were kind of going at it. I think it would have been fair to just put the ball down, allow Toronto to have a free kick there. I don't think the yellow was warranted, but it doesn't matter what I think, because he got it and now he's going to be out the next game.
Yeah.
But again, and slow starts, and just poor decision making have plagued this team throughout the course of the season. And it is something that we've been preaching. You're not going to be able to overcome these things. And now it is getting to the point where this hill is just, it's greased, like we're trying to climb up this hill and there's just oil on it. And it's oil that we've poured on it on our own accord. So tough, but there was plenty of time left in this game and just didn't get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2 minutes later, right? Yeah. Austin's pressing up in Toronto's defensive third. So we're like right side, far side broadcast camera here. And I think the first issue here is Bernardeschi checks back, right? We've kind of got him somewhat pinned in that far corner. And when he tracks back to the ball here, both Biru and Danny go with him and are on his back as he receives this pass. So we got somebody out of position here. Right? And so Bernardeschi taps it right back to Coelho, and he kind of like boops it right over the top of those guys to John Osorio, and all of a sudden it's 4-on-2 as Osorio immediately just plays it past Hedges on that right sideline to Kerr. And I think Alex Ring does a decent job in transition here to sprint his ass and 2-foot tackle the ball away from Kerr, who had cut in towards the middle. But then that ball just deflects right into the path of Osorio. He takes a touch and then a shot off kind of a half volley there. And it looks like Stuver gets a graze of this ball with his mitt, but it still just rockets inside that near post. 1-0 Toronto in the first 10 minutes. And there were calls for a handball here from Austin, and it does get looked at. I don't really know what we're looking at there. I didn't see any sort of handball or think there was one in the buildup. And ultimately it's being out of position so far up the field, and transition defense comes back to bite us in the ass again. And we weren't done with that on the night. But again, it's so deflating at the start. And I think the start, right, kind of covers up some of the perceived positives that there are throughout the rest of this match. And ultimately it doesn't matter because you need results at this point of the season. But it's just deflating.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of thoughts on this right now. Bernardeschi should be getting a yellow card anytime he steps on the field with that haircut. I'm a pretty liberal guy in regard to how you can wear your hair, but that is definitely not it. All right. So there's that. Guilherme, Danny, just pressing a little too much. I feel like trying to make something happen. And we have talked about this team's transition defense since the beginning of the season and how it was a vocal point for the coaching staff to improve that area of our game. And we had throughout the course of the season. It has been one of the most consistent things throughout the course of this year where we have been solid transitionally on the defensive side of the ball. You get your classic Alex Ring track back slide, and the bounce is just incredibly unfortunate. I also saw nothing in regard to a potential handball, so I don't know what they were asking for. A laser beam of a shot that there's nothing Stuver can do with it. You get a hand on that, and it doesn't matter. You're not really deflecting that any sort of way. Yeah. And here we are, 10 minutes in again, and you've been scored on, and now you have to make up this ground again, and you've put yourself in a hole again, and it's just a shitty situation to be in again. And deflating is the right term. I mean, like you could see it also throughout those guys. It wasn't just a deflating moment for the fans who are watching this and desperately invested in this team trying to accomplish this goal of making the playoffs. These guys are hurting right now. Like the body language still, like you saw the chances, you saw the palpable frustration from guys. It didn't boil over to some of the points that we've seen throughout the course of the season where guys have fallen to their knees, thrown their hands up in exasperation and all of this. But like you could just see a little bit of the life force be sucked right out of them. And like, that is just not the way to start games. And, you know, it was a great ball that comes in, but still, you got to find a way to get back and get a stop there. And the bounce was unfortunate. And like, those are things that you cannot control throughout the course of the season. So you have to be doing your due diligence for the things that you can control. And this team just has not been able to do that on a consistent basis.
Well, and going back to you talking about the transition defense and the perceived improvement this season based off where the bar was from the first three, where we were just consistently below average, and that may be putting it nicely. One of the many things, and we'll talk about as we go here, some of the things that we want to keep our eye on, right? Those underlying numbers, right, are going to pop up later, of course. But I think this is another thing to watch down the stretch here, whether you make the playoffs or not. Was the transition defense improved earlier in the season because we were doing something completely different and playing more defensive and just focusing on that, right? Now that we come out here and we're being a little bit more threatening with our offense, we're pressing, we're like opening the game up a little bit more on purpose, right? We're changing our game model. Is that going to expose the defense for being fraudulent still? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't. Again, this is not. We're going to talk about this 3-game sample size throughout today's episode, right? Nashville, Vancouver, and Toronto, which is the games we've had with the new guys as starters, or 2 of the 3. We still don't have Svatok. And maybe Svatok being in there helps some of the transition defense on Saturday if he was fit to start. So, again, that's something we just is not a known quantity at this point. But anyway, keeping it pushing here. It's almost 20 minutes. 19th minute is when Austin really shows the first sign of life. They get a Biru cross towards Osman. It gets cleared out for a corner. And so tonight we've got Danny Pereira on corners. And I thought there was like one corner throughout the night that didn't really make it over that first defender. I thought the rest were pretty darn good. And this good ball in here, right towards the head of Matt Hedges, who can't connect cleanly and then can't get a touch on the bouncing ball in front of him. And Sean Johnson cleans it up. 3 minutes later, Austin pressing again in that same area from where we got scored on, just that far corner in the Toronto defensive third. Danny goes through the back of Coelho. But Driussi then kicks the ball away in frustration. Just like that, he's like, I don't want to play on Wednesday. He gets a yellow. Second time in 4 games that he's gotten himself suspended. Because you remember, he was suspended for the Charlotte match because he went in and whatever he did, right, in that scrum in Dallas. Throat punch, push somebody, grab Julio, whatever it was. You get suspended there. You get yourself suspended here. This one, Brendan Heinzike earlier, I thought that was a harsh yellow card by official Chris Penso. This is discipline, right? Yep. This is straight up just controlling your emotions. And this right here, 100%. Just another reason, but this is just a good encapsulation of why he is not wearing the armband anymore.
That is a great point and exactly the one that I was going to make. There's absolutely no need for this. Take your frustration out on the opponent, bro. Like this, it was a foul anyway.
Yeah.
It was a foul.
Yeah, Dan pushed him, yeah.
It was,
and I know what he's frustrated at. He makes the push motion to the official and motions towards the other side of the field, where Austin did not get that same call a few minutes ago. But again, you can't trade bitching at the official here for not being able to play against LAFC on fucking Wednesday.
Exactly, 100%. And it is continued to bite this team in the ass, and he has been one of the worst culprits of it throughout this entire season. Like, you go back to the Dallas game as well. Now he's going to be suspended for this game. And like, we just can't have it, man. We just can't have it.
25th minute, pretty impressive buildup from Toronto here. It ends up at like very intricate passing here, just kind of slicing through the Austin midfield, which was a theme, especially in the first half. But we get a fortunate, like some friendly fire here because Osorio had slipped in the box and they take a shot here from the top of the box. It bounces off of him. So not only just Austin getting in positions to block shots, but the opponent helping them out as well. But off that deflection, Austin gets a little bit of a counter chance here. Bukhari just over midfield fights through a foul and starts the 3-on-2 break. He's got Giassi Zardes to his left, Hader Obrian to his right, and he plays Obrian through. In my eyes, pretty flawlessly here. And then like we didn't pronounce the Hader like heavy touch talk dead, but it's been the majority of the season where we haven't had to worry about it. It reared its ugly head here tonight because he plays this little bit of a heavy touch here, right? But still gets a shot, but it's just right at Sean Johnson and goes out for a corner. And I think regardless of if I want to try to, make us smile a little bit here about hot or heavy touch, it has to be a goal. It has to be.
You have to score this. This is a breakaway. You are one on the keeper. Also great that Sean Johnson has his best game of the season here. And like, it just needed finesse. And like you talked about with the heavy touch, what happens here, he puts that heavy touch on and he just shrinks that goal opportunity for himself. And he just doesn't have the touch to put this to one side or the other with just a little bit of pace that you need to finish. We see it later on when Owen does it. He doesn't just blast a fucking shot. He places it. He takes his time and places it. And Hader gets ahead of himself. He has another bad touch coming up later in this game. And just damn it, dude. Like, damn it. It has to be, a goal. And we had been asleep. Like you said, our first kind of continuous build threatening a chance is not popping up until the 19th minute of the game. And we're trying to play a more aggressive style on the road. So that is just not a recipe for success. And when you have chances like this, you have to finish them. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit more as we progress through this game.
Well, then we get the corner off the Hader shot, right? And again, another good ball, I think, by Danny, right to the spot, essentially, where Zardes gets a touch of the ball kind of down into the ground, and it falls for Driussi, who can't toe poke it in the net. And the net was open. Sean Johnson misplayed this corner. And it's just, again, it's another great chance kind of in quick succession there. And if you get one of those to fall, now we're 1-1, and now we got the juice, right? We get scored on the breakdown. And now we're starting to pick up the momentum here. 4 minutes later, Osman pounces on a turnover near midfield after Coelho slips. And the way he leads this break and continues to progress the ball while like throwing off defenders with like, it's almost like a herky-jerky style. But like the ball's progressing, but he's faking out defenders by the way he's moving. Like just feinting and faking, like keeping guys off of him because of the way he's faking these cuts. And he sets up Alex Ring, who's entering the box on the left, and Alex takes a touch to kind of settle it, shoots it. It's right at Sean Johnson. And like, shout out to Osman, especially this first half hour. He's leading the break. He's cutting inside. He's setting up his teammates. And it's just making me think again, like we'll talk about, we talk plenty about how we expect there to be better players, a higher level of talent on this team as Rodo's tenure continues forward. And again, I would love to have Alex back and Hader back on various, different contracts. But there's a lot out of Bukhari in this game, I think, that I liked. There's some that I don't. But right here, again, he's creating chances for his teammates. And these guys, we have to finish something. Something has to hit the back of the net here.
You have to find a way. And again, we've talked about it briefly about how we think frustration could be setting into Osman for setting these dudes up, putting them in opportunities to score goals. And not that I caught plenty of Red Star games or anything like that, but I'm going to make the assumption plenty of those players were able to finish these opportunities that he has created.
Double-digit assists, I think, both years.
We have not been able to do so, and this is what you get out of Alex more often than not when he has an attempt on goal, and it's just tough, man, because these are the opportunities that we're creating, and like you look at the entire first half in totality, and Austin created more chances, had more opportunities than Toronto did.
30th minute. I mean, this is moments later, right?
Yep.
It's not the exact next possession, but essentially the next passage of play. Austin loses possession after Mikkel Dessler gets a pass cut out, and Toronto just turns upfield, slices right through that Austin midfield with ease, and then finds Richie Laryea, who, if I'm going to get on guys like Guilherme Biru or even Driussi, right, for not getting back, Mikkel Dessler did not stop here and like pout. But Laryea takes off when the ball changes possession. And Dessler takes a few beats. And like him not being back in position, because he's even with Laryea when this ball is turned over. And when Laryea gets the ball sprinting down that left side, he's 5 yards in front of Mikkel. So like you still have to go and finish this play, right? Credit to Laryea getting in behind the defense. And he plays a nice ball across the face of net where Kerr's crashing the box on that backside on the right. And again, it's all falling apart here for Austin. But again, I think it just starts, it's transition defense again. And this is what leaves me scratching my head about what we were talking about earlier is like, was what we saw defensively earlier in the season just a farce because of the way we were playing so conservatively?
I don't think so.
It's easy to say after this game, but like it's on my mind.
At this point now, with Dessler and Biru on the opposite sides in those fullback positions, you just add a greater level of athleticism because most of transition defense is effort and getting back and like busting your ass to get back. That is the biggest part of the fight when you see these types of plays come through. So I'm not ready to go there yet, for sure. But I watched this particular play probably about 10 times on the replay. And was just trying to figure out, like, was there something more we could have done here to stop this goal from coming in? Because it does end up being a tap-in, like one of the easiest goals that he's going to score throughout the course of the season here. And I'm watching Guilherme, and I'm like looking at him, and I was like, could he have slid here? You definitely open up the chance of potentially doing an own goal. And like, obviously the ball goes past him, and they're able to slot it in. And, again, just a little more life force just pulled out of this team. And now you're really behind it because like you can get the first one back and you're still got to make the climb. And, I can't lie about this. It just felt like it was pretty much over at that point in time. I mean, we haven't scored 3 goals on the road all season, correct?
I don't think no.
Yeah,
no. We scored like 8 goals on the road total. I think it's 9 now.
Exactly. So and for me, we have pulled the must-win lever for this game. I pulled it for Vancouver, because you have this fucking schedule coming up where
it's stuck now. Rest of the season.
I mean, it's stuck and it might be broken because even if you're able to win these games, it's still an uphill battle and. It's just it's demoralizing. I am definitely hurt about this match.
Well, I will give the guys credit. They don't quit in this match. I think we have seen going back throughout the history of this club, right? We have seen this team quit before or look like they quit. And I didn't think this was that in the 41st minute. Seba takes a shot from that left side that bounces off 2 Toronto defenders, and it lands at the feet of Zardes, who taps it home. Flag comes up very late, but you could tell by where, I mean, really just watching, you can tell he was offside, but Zardes doesn't celebrate at all. He knows he's off here, and that flag does come up, and it's just not even close on the replay, so unfortunate there. But again, Austin getting into some good spots. 2 minutes later in the 43rd, Lorenzo Insigne gives it away, and Driussi takes off 2-on-2 break with him and Gyasi Zardes, and when this was live, I thought he was shooting this. Ultimately, on the replay, he is trying to pass it to Zardes on that backside, but his pass gets deflected, and it goes towards goal. And Sean Johnson has no idea about this. He mistimes his jump, literally waves his glove in the air. Like, I don't even know what kind of reference to make towards that, but it was just like a wild flail at this ball and fucking gets a hand on it and it stays out. Yep. And it's just like, it was that kind of night where we're just not going to get a bounce.
Yep. Just a game of millimeters, and like, it's just, you have the Giassi play and like, he's clearly offsides, but still it's just a fortuitous moment where it's like, maybe we can tap this in. And you felt like you needed one before going into halftime, where you can come back, you can regroup, you can regather and be like, look, here we are, we're down 1 now. Like, let's go get this job done. But not being able to secure that first goal until later in this match is just a microcosm of how this season has gone for this team. A little, too little, too late, more often than not.
Get 3 minutes of stoppage, and in the second, ball kind of pinging around the midfield. I think it was Heinz Ike is one of the two center backs trying to find Giassi, checking back, and defender comes up, pokes it out from behind him. But that ball falls to Seba, who has Bukhari right on that Toronto backline and releases him with a nice through ball. He's in on Sean Johnson, and he has Hader Obrian wide open on that back post for a fucking dunk. Like, this is an alley-oop if you just play it over there to him. And contrary to the chance from 2 minutes prior where Seba had the defender on his hip and the pass across gets deflected, no such defender in this instance. And, like, this makes me think about what you said is, like, Osman spent the first half essentially trying to set up his teammates and doing so with success, I think, to give his teammates chances.
Yep.
And is it because the failure to convert on those chances that he doesn't see Hader on the backside here? It's possible. He opts to try to put it inside that near post, and Sean Johnson saves it out for a corner. You also get Henry Wingo, right? Our former rumor darling there. He started at right center back, comes off injured. O'Neal comes in to replace him. But this is just, for at least the second time in the first half, a chance where it has to be a goal. It absolutely has to. There's no excuse for it.
Has to be a goal, and I thought about that potentially being some sort of reason why this ball doesn't get delivered to Hot Air, because the trust has been somewhat eroded when you're delivering balls to guys and they're just unable to finish. But when you see somebody like that open, you see the color of your team. It's just an instinctual kind of thing to play them the ball if they're that wide open. So I don't think he necessarily saw him. But again, I think he can do better with that. And I think you can beat Sean Johnson there. Like, you can. People have been beating him all fucking season. And just we can't. We have not been able to do that.
So coming out of the half here, we do get 2 changes. And I think both of them make sense to me. Yeah. Well, these both make sense to me in the sense that, number one, Danny, of course, we know, maybe tired from the international travel, right? But I also think we just saw 2 guys get suspended in the first half for yellow card accumulation. He's also on warning. And the way the yellows were being handed out, like, I don't think it's crazy to think. Again, we've talked about it in the past, right? When people get sent off, should you have pulled this guy early, what have you? At the very least, getting him off there does save him for Wednesday. So Danny will be available. And then you get Julio
playing well.
Yeah. That is also very fair. I don't think Danny did anything to separate himself on the field there. So you get the Punisher comes in for Danny, and then you do get a change on the back line as well with Julio in for Hedges. And that makes some sense to me too, because again, Julio has just proven to be a little bit more of a threat on set pieces and corners and such, and we need goals.
I disagree.
Okay.
I would have gone Owen. You got to score.
For Hedges.
No, for Danny.
Oh, for Johan. Yes, Danny. Yeah.
Instead of Johan, we got to score. Like, we had to find a way to score a goal here, and like we know what we're getting out of Johan. We don't have to fucking talk about it. We know what he is. We know who he is.
Yeah.
And I said one of the reasons why, and I think that most people who were for, like you said earlier on the show, like taking Owen out, being the odd man out, I think the most compelling argument for that is that he gives you a bit more flexibility in regard to what you're going to be bringing on. You bring Johan on, he's a defensive specialist. That's what he does. You bring Owen on here, you potentially have a bit more firepower. So I did not like that sub. I did like the Julio one. Also, we talked about Matt Hedges' 39 pace and his rating there. That is not great for transition defense, because as much as transition defense is effort, you do also have to be able to physically run. So I did like the Julio one. I like what you talked about there too in regard to set pieces and the fact that Julio has provided us with timely goals at times, and we were generating a shitload of corner kicks and chances. Now, granted, those corner kicks were being generated because we were unable to finish goals that we should have
Right.
been scoring, but we had to get some sort of more firepower on there, and I just do not think Johan was the right call, and I think I'm proven right with what Johan eventually does in this game.
Yeah. And ultimately that was what I was going to say. Like I feel like I gave a little bit of credence to the move just because putting Valencia, like if you bring Owen in, then I think you're relegating Alex to sit closer to that back line. And I don't think that's what they want to do. Right. Because ultimately you want to release both Dessler and Biru when they can up to join the attack on their respective wings. And so bringing in Johan allows him to sit in between those two center backs that they still have in. But again, like you said, you get proven right with what Owen Wolf does later on.
And also we're down 2-0. Like
for sure.
The damage has been done here.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to get something behind Sean Johnson. And you're not going to get that with Johan.
For sure.
He might just knock somebody out in the 30th row.
Yeah.
But he ain't going to score a goal.
49th minute. Guilherme Biru steps in front of a pass in the Toronto defensive third, plays a quick 1-2 with Driussi, and then crosses beautifully to Ring from about 14 yards out, just center of net. One times it straight to Sean Johnson. And I thought he had enough time there in space to maybe take a touch and then place his shot there. So I watching it live, I thought he rushed it. And I thought it was a good pass by Guilherme.
It was a great pass by Guilherme. And yes, 1000%. He had enough time to corral this ball, bring it down, and pick his spot. And just, God damn it. Why is that not 10 receiving that ball?
Yeah. Well, because he's over there creating the space for Guilherme. And while we're talking about Driussi, again, I know he doesn't score, doesn't have a goal contribution in this game. I thought he was much better overall in this game in terms of creating for his teammates, his effort, intensity level, his involvement by just bringing him back into the midfield. It was far from like a top tier Seba game, but it was refreshing to see him be more involved.
Well, he's actually touching the fucking ball. So he's going to do what he does as a player, but
Well, and speaking of people who do what they do, 54th minute here, doesn't even take him 10 minutes. Johan Valencia just 2-arm tackles John Osorio from behind. And so he's out for Wednesday. And this one, again, to me, this one is also disciplined because the Heinzek one, you could argue, like we said, that the yellow was harsh and that the foul could have even gone against the other team. The other two are just frustration and not thinking and not having the presence of mind. At least it appears that, we're already down 2-0 here.
Yeah.
Do we really need you we really need to stop this break, which was going out to the right side? We're not even in the penalty box here. We're not. It just wasn't a looming threat where we're about to get scored on again. But it's 100% that's that's closer to a red card for me than it is to nothing. Right?
Absolutely it is. We have given him the benefit of the doubt in regard to adjusting to MLS, but brother, you've been here for
3 years in.
Exactly. You've been here for so long. And also that's a foul in any country. I don't care where you're fucking playing. That is a yellow card in every league in the country. So, and it's just foolish. It's just foolish behavior.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's not a threatening, I'm about to stop a goal by, throwing myself on this grenade to get us out of a situation. You just willingly tossed yourself into that fire for no really good reason. And again, disciplinary stuff, level-headedness, awareness, knowing you're on yellow card accumulation, you're getting you're on a yellow card accumulation, man. You gotta tighten it up.
Yeah. Well, and I have here in the notes too. This confused me. Do the Toronto supporters just release the smoke whenever they want? Because like we are at least 20 minutes on either side from a goal being scored, even from halftime. Like we do smoke when the second half starts, but like this is 57th minute. There's just a huge cloud of smoke first covering Stuver, and then it's in midfield. Like it's, one of the few stadiums where I think you see the supporter smoke just covering the broadcast camera, like shrouding the field. And I just don't get it. At 58th, you get a double change for Toronto. Flores and Thompson come in for Insigne and Coelho, which I didn't hate to see Lorenzo Insigne leave the field. 4 minutes later, you get Gallagher in for Osman, which moved Obrian to the right side. Johnny comes in on the left. And again, I don't like, with LAFC coming on Wednesday, with Driussi already suspended, I also I get this sub as much as I want Bukhari to go out there and play 90. I mean, look, you don't have much of a chance Wednesday anyways, but if he can't go 90 on Wednesday, I think we're in more trouble, and we are at this point still down 2-0.
But that's where I'm coming from, is that I see the and I don't think they're taking into too much of account the probability of winning on Wednesday. You got to go for it right here. He's the most expensive player we've ever paid for. You got to be able to get 90 minutes out of this guy. Like what you have to. So like, I also did not like this. I did not like this one. I understand where you're coming from in regard to potentially saving him. We don't have time. We do not have time to save guys. So I did not like this. I don't think he should have came out of the game, because you see it a little later. Stuver gets a save, and we get one of those long balls out to him, and we're just right there again. And it's like, he just needs that much space, a little bit of just room to break a game. And I didn't like it. Particularly with the struggles that Johnny has had, that I have highlighted. And at this point, I'm not even worried about the transition defense. I'd rather lose 4-0 with our best players out there trying to score a goal than take him out of the game. So I disagreed with it. I had been asking, like we talked about in the last episode, we're previewing this game. I was like, if we're down in the first 45 and it's just not looking great, even though it looked so much better than it did versus Vancouver, we needed to get some stuff revitalized and guys in there and like try to build something and try to change it up a little bit. But I just can't. I'm not going to get on board with taking arguably our most talented player off of the field when we're down 2-0.
Yeah. 63rd minute, yellow card to Richie Larea, pulling down Obrian to stop a breakaway. 3 minutes later, double change for Toronto again, Owusu and Mabika. And every time Mabika hits the field, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this, like, we called Jackson Reagan Seattle Shrek, but 6'7"? That's wild, man. You got a small forward out there playing center back.
That's a big boy.
So Kerr and Gomes come off for them. Then a yellow card to O'Neal for going through the back of Driussi. 71st minute, you get Owen and Diego in for Zardes and Alex Ring. And I will note, Seba was on sets and corners in the second half after Danny went off. In the 75th here, off a Brad Stuver throw, Driussi gets in behind on the left. He puts the ball across the face of goal, and it takes a deflection off Mabika, but pops up to Obrian, who has a point-blank header, and he sends it over the bar. And I don't put this to the level of the first half chances where it's like it has to be a goal, but I think in most cases that should be a goal.
Remind me, did Johnny and then swap sides when we subbed?
Yes, Aubry went back to the right, and coach actually touched on that in the post game, saying that Obrian's not really a left side player, and that was a conversation at the beginning of the year as well.
And I think if it's Osman, you score.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit here and say that with no fucking skin in the game, and be sitting here miserable and upset about this team's season and how it is very, very much coming to that disaster scenario that you outlined on the last episode.
Yeah, but you might be right too. Like but Osman is a better player. Just better objectively.
So he's 100% better. Like maybe Osman does better with that. Maybe he doesn't. But I still think my point stands that I would have rather have hot air pulled out of that game.
Sure. 76th minute, Austin gains possession off the ensuing goal kick from that hotter chance. And so Austin's got it at the back, and Heinz Ike just takes a look up, takes a peek, plays a long ball in, and all of a sudden Owen Wolf, of all players, is in there streaking behind the back line. And like this first touch to bring this ball down, masterful.
Incredible.
In my opinion. And then
Incredible.
cuts back on Petretta, who puts him on his butt, and then lifts it past Sean Johnson after sending him the wrong way. I think, and I would have to go back through the schedule and think about the goals we've scored, but I think this is hands down a top 5 goal of the season, and I don't think it's 5th. The individual skill there, man, like, I mean, just well done by Owen to give us a little bit of a lifeline.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, I also am right there with you. Like on the short list of things, recency bias included, this is one of the top goals of the season. And it's just fucking frustrating that the 19-year-old can do this, and we got guys who are taking first touches that are blasting out in front of them. So shout out to Owen. I don't want to discredit his goal by making that slight jab at other players.
Sure.
And he points towards the goal, like the net, like that was cool as fuck. You know what I mean? And like he's like, oh, you know what I mean? And again, it's just a composure thing. It's a confidence thing. It's understanding your ability to be able to beat a keeper in a certain situation, and he does a fantastic job here. And God damn it, because you guys got me right there. You got me back. You got me back to that point.
You know that little meme, right, with the guy who's sitting back in his chair.
And
then all of a sudden he sits up with the controller. That was me where I was watching on Saturday because I was fucking dejected. If we are losing a big game, Austin FC being we, of course.
Yeah.
I am the most miserable person to be around.
Yeah.
Just like I'm just like, I'm being sad. Let me wallow. And like, this is me like sitting up. All right. We got fucking 15 minutes and change to try to get an equalizer here. And again, the 1 point still wouldn't have been good enough, but that would have at least given you a little bit of zip headed into Wednesday, headed into the rest of this week.
Just enough of life where you're still onto that thread. You're holding on to it. We got to come up with a new term. It can't be blue balls. We'll have to call it Verde balls.
Yeah. 77th minute, yellow card to Kosi Thompson, taking down Owen Wolf after he got past him near the sideline, and then off that free kick from Seba, it's cleared out of the penalty area by Toronto. Falls to Johan, who kind of winds up like he's gonna fucking shoot it, and I'm sitting there like, no. He does opt to pass it right back to Driussi again, who took that initial kick. So good on you there,
smart
Punisher. Seba whips it back in, and it bounces through the area towards that back post, and Diego Rubio is like half a second too late on his run from just heading this right into the back of the net. And again, in a game of inches and game of half seconds here and tenths of a second there, again, we were just on the wrong side of it, which has happened far too often this season.
Yep, absolutely. And, like you said, a half second too late, also 3.5 years too late. This is what it is. You know what I mean? Like this is part of, like, we're trying to search for these grand reasons why we're unable to finish, and they're just kind of right in front of our face. Like you have a diminished Zardes, you have a diminished Rubio, and then everything kind of just gets a little bit more amplified. And I look at this season and throughout the entire course of it, and these chances that we have had where we've been so close. And I'd imagine most other fan bases also go through it, because these plays just stick out in your mind when you need a goal so badly. But we just haven't been able to find a way, and like right before we started this stretch, you have the Leagues Cup performance, you have the Nashville game, you have the decent LAFC performance mixed in with those. I just felt like this team, my hopes were up. We had survived what everyone had said that was the stretch where until we get these next players in here, where we get the infusion, that we're going to be able to make this push. And I just thought this team was going to be able to do something special in regard to making the playoffs and having a little bit of noise. I wasn't saying like special, like we're going to be the one team in the league who picks up the trophy, but just something special, of a special bit of a run. And that has just kind of been sucked out of my brain at this point. And I feel resigned to our fate, where we're just going to be sitting on, probably not watching the MLS playoffs at, because like if I'm not going to be heavily invested in it, but yeah, man, I'm just hurt. It's tough.
Yeah. You do get to close this one out, a yellow card to Mabika for kicking the ball away. So we got consistency there in the 83rd, 88th minute. Cascante breaks two lines with a ball to Diego Rubio, kind of checking back above the top of the 18. And it's a great touch to play OB in behind here. And that first touch, Demon fucking comes back. And Sean Johnson just able to close this down and get it out for a corner. Potter's got to do better there because it's a good pass by Julio. Great pass by Rubio. And that's another. It's got to be a goal.
Should have been Buka. It should have been Buka.
Well, okay. I mean, this is okay. I hate when you're right. Okay?
Hey, come on, get used to it. This is much more of a play that I can point to and be like, okay, I 100% have way more confidence that this is a goal if it was Bukari. And it's just horrible first touch. And I called for you hotter. I stood up for you. I said you needed to start. I highlighted other people's poor touches to get you in here. And fuck, man, it has to be a goal. You have to score. You are you're an attacking player. You got to finish it. You got to.
Second minute of stoppage time. Ball in from distance. Driussi towards Rubio. He gets a touch on that ball up into the air. It comes towards that back post and like similar to the chance from 10 minutes prior, just out of the reach of Gallagher, who had a step there on Bernadeschi on the back post. And final whistle blows. 2-1 loss. And yeah, man. I mean, again, you are just hurtling towards, again, the nightmare scenario just for this week, but then also for the rest of the season, because you can lose the 2 games the rest of this week and still be mathematically alive. But if you don't win at least one of these, I mean, come on.
What's it happening. It's a 5-point gap now.
So, yes. So if we check on the table, of course, don't get a ton of help from the other results around the league. Minnesota did get a victory. Houston got a big victory. Portland lost in Colorado, so that helped out a little bit. But yeah, we are now 5 points back of Minnesota, who's in 9th, 6 points back of Portland in 8th. And again, we lost our game in hand over Dallas, so now they are above us in 10th. We're in 11th on goal differential tiebreakers. Both teams 9 wins, 12 losses, and 7 draws. In this one, go ahead.
I saw the Minnesota result. Like obviously they've now beaten the Quakes and St. Louis, who are 2 of the worst teams in the Western Conference. And I just keep getting flashbacks of the Pompeo deflection.
Yep.
And the fact that we should have had 2 extra points now. And if that was the case, you're down 36-39. It's 3 points. You're still within that punching distance, striking distance and everything. And you're feeling good about it. But anyone could point to.
Every team has those, right?
A plethora of moments where that has happened. But, that's just how I'm feeling. And if we're having a therapy session, I got my therapy. I got my therapy juice.
There you go. Monday Miller for you.
so we're going through it, man. 51%. Tell them about the stats. Tell the people about the stats so we can get a little. I can feel alive again.
Yeah, let's turn it around here. Not completely, but
yeah.
Let's just put it in some perspective. 51% possession for Austin, 17 shots to 10 in favor of Austin. I can count on, I don't even need a whole hand to count on the number of times we've done that this season. 6 shots on target to 3 in favor of Austin. 15 of Austin's 17 shots came from inside the box. 6-2 corners in favor of Austin. 5 big chances created for Austin. 4 of them missed. 3.73 XG for Austin FC. 1.14 XG for Toronto. Not only is that by far the most XG that Austin FC has created in a game this season by FotMob's model, it was more than 3/4 of a goal above any other of the 27 other teams that played this weekend.
Jesus.
Just to illustrate, again, expected goals is far from the perfect metric, right? And especially in a single game sample, it should not be, right? It's just an aid to maybe help tell the story of a 90-minute match, right? It is far from perfect in telling you who did win the match, who even should have won the match. But in this instance, when you generate that much, again, in your own tier, in your own stratosphere, compared to the rest of the league this weekend, just in the XG model, like, you got to have more. 2.19 expected goals on target. Maybe that's more like it in terms of being realistic, but 0.8 for Toronto, right? So again, you should have gotten more out of this match. And ultimately from the coach, like, we can talk about what Coach Wolf said in the presser here and what Mikkel Dessler said. He was the player that was available. And I think this was ultimately like a well-coached game from setting the guys up. And look what they're doing with the chances. Like, we're creating stuff way more than what we did earlier in the season. And we got the lineup that I think the majority of fans wanted to see. At least some of those changes were being called for pretty much across the board. And again, like, 5 big chances created. So from a regular season match, right, is right around 2.9% of the season. So in that game, that 2.9% of the season, Austin's 3.43 XG was 11.7% of our XG on the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a big number.
Again, it really tells the story about the rest of the season.
Correct. True.
And with those 5 big chances, that's 9.4% of our big chances created on the season. But I mentioned that 3-game sample earlier on, right? The Nashville road win, the Vancouver home loss, and the Toronto road loss are the 3 league matches that we've had Osman Bukhari and Mikkel Dessler starting in this lineup. Remember, we had abbreviated Osman against Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Dessler came off the bench, played about 25 minutes, and Driussi was suspended. Out of those 3 games, the XG totals for Austin, 6.4. Opponents, an even 4, right? The actual goals, G, 3-3. But to me, and Austin have out XG'd their opponents in 8 of the 28 matches this season. 2 of those 8 have come in the last 3 matches. So again, like, the results are not there, and that's what matters. And I think that's what ultimately, it falls on the players, of course, for not finishing the chances, but ultimately that is what's going to fall on the head coach, whether they make the playoffs or not. But that's another thing I want to keep my eye on, whether the team makes the playoffs or not, is I want the infamous underlying numbers to continue in this positive direction, because the idea of those underlying numbers is that the larger the sample size you get, the more accurate of an indicator it can be of success. And if we are scoring 50% more goals XG-wise than our opponents over a large sample, you're probably going to be a pretty good team. So the underlying numbers are encouraging. But again, that just like when Austin overperformed those numbers for almost an entire season in 2022, you got to go out there and do it. So just something, again, it's something to keep, something to build your perspective around what's going on through these 3 games. Because again, just coming into the Vancouver game, 180 minutes of soccer ago, I was flying, man, coming off the Nashville. Again, the Nashville was far from perfect, but it was by far the best road performance that we have had. I was super encouraged going into this last stretch. And now, again, of course, it's completely flipped on its head. Even before the Toronto match, just coming out of Vancouver was such a gut shot. But again, there are still, I think, positives for us, because we, the fan base, right? We are going to be here next year. Players, coaches may not be. But as long as those things continue to trend in that direction, that's good news for us, the fans.
Yes. More often than not, you're a good team when that stuff is trending that way. So I'm right there with you. And it's been such a ride of a season, as all of these MLS seasons have been up until this point in our brief introduction into this league and everything, and having our diehard fanhood be tied to this Austin FC team, which was an expansion team. And then we roll into a fantastic, magical season. Expectations are through the roof. You come into this year and like, you're just trying to make it up until this point and survive. And I thought we did a good job of that. And now to have these last couple games take place and see the good things in regard to, even the games we've dropped. We dropped this game. If this game had happened earlier in the season, you're probably feeling somewhat okay about it because you understand the numbers behind it, playing on the road, all of those things taken into account. But too little, too late, once again, as it has been more often than not throughout the course of this year.
Yeah, and Coach Wolf in the post-match, he said, we create way too many chances through the run of play and through set pieces in both halves. The ball is inside the 6. We miss or whiff the toe poke opportunities where we're getting in front of goal break. And again, the inability to connect the pass in front of goal to open players or make a better decision and execute it. The playoffs are still achievable. We have to pick up points. We want to arrive at that last game with the ability to win, to get in, and we know it's going to be challenging. And again, just how challenging is it, right? I think you need at least 11 points to get to 45, right? With 6 matches remaining. It's just easier to fucking win 4 of these than try to do the math on how many ties can we get and wins, and 3 at home, 3 on the road. You win, you defend home turf. There's 9 points. You find a road win, LAFC, Portland, LA Galaxy. And let me just, before I toss it to you, E, to talk about the again unlikely path that this team could take to a wild card berth. I just want to let you know that LA Galaxy, LAFC, and Portland Timbers are 3 road opponents. Have played 43 matches at home this year. They have 5 total losses between them. Over to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Setting me up real nicely here. I mean, I said it on the last episode. If we didn't win this game, I'd have a hard time putting our playoff chances in the double digits. I think we're beneath that because you have to take into account the last few games that have happened. The Vancouver game was so bad that it just changed the entire trajectory, and it put that kind of fear of God in me where it was like, what team are we actually going to see out here on the pitch when we go to play a full 90? And you have this disappointing Toronto loss, and we were just begging to get some of these Eastern Conference opponents, and now you did, and you drop this one, and it is just looks like the tunnel has closed. The light at the end of the tunnel, it is waning so quickly. But there is still time. And as much as this team has shocked us in the past in regard to some poor performances like the Vancouver ones, we have also been shocked with some performances that have been like, well, where the hell did that come from? So I'm not banking on those things, and I don't think I can necessarily take them into account in regard to having a great level of confidence about this team being able to secure this 9 spot. But I, again, think we are firmly cemented in only being able to get up to that point. Minnesota has now kind of run off. They don't get San Jose again, dude. They don't get them again, right?
Because they have an easy schedule.
They get them again.
Let me see. Minnesota finishes. They host Cincinnati midweek, road Sporting, home Colorado, road RSL, road Vancouver, home St. Louis. So they do. I mean, they see St. Louis, right? They see Sporting. They're done with San Jose, but those other 2. Those are probably the 6 points. And if they get 6 points, they're on 45.
Yeah. Yep. But that's Sporting on the road. That's come on, Cavincio.
Right? Come on, man.
Come on, brother. Give us something. Yeah, man, I don't feel great about it. I wanted playoffs for this team so bad. I thought that the guys who had really trucked and trudged through the mud up until this point really deserved to have some postseason soccer in their lives. And, you see that picture, it hits you right there in the fields. You got the guys embracing everything, ready to get after it. But it doesn't look good. It does not look good.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to spend too much time on the LAFC preview here. Again, we saw this team just over a month ago when they expelled us from Leagues Cup with the 2-0 victory over Austin out there at BMO Stadium. So this one's going to be a late one on Wednesday night. It'll be a 9:40 kickoff there on Apple TV. All-time head-to-head in this series is now 2 wins for Austin, 7 losses, and 1 draw. Of course, these teams have met twice already this season. The one draw in this historical head-to-head series came back in June, the 0-0 draw there at Q2 Stadium. Then, like I mentioned, Leagues Cup round of 32, a 2-0 victory for LAFC back in early August. And Austin hasn't pulled off a win against LAFC since August of 2022. And of course, those 2 wins came back to back. I believe it was early May 22 and then August when they got the 2 victories in this series. LA is coming in on, for them, a rough run of form. They have lost 3 of their last 5 matches overall. That's including losing the Leagues Cup final to Columbus on the road, defeating Seattle in the Open Cup to advance to that final, which again is next Wednesday. So this is a team with even more schedule congestion than the rest of the league is dealing with through this early fall type of schedule that we have here. That said, I don't think that we're going to see rotation. I think the schedule sets up perfectly for them to go full out at home against Austin here on Wednesday, coming off the 4-2 loss in El Tráfico at the hands of the Galaxy. They were up 2-0, gave up 4 straight there in the second half. Yeah. And then they go on the road to Dallas on Saturday. So out of the 3 games this week in the double game week, the Dallas one is on the road. The Dallas one is the one that comes on 72 hours rest. That is the one, to me, that they're going to rotate. And then they throw everything into the Open Cup final against Sporting next Wednesday. So again, I don't think we're going to get any sort of like fortunate reprieve from who they're going to run out there. Lewis O'Brien will be suspended. He picked up a red card on Saturday night. But outside of that, Jesus Murillo, of course, still out with that knee injury he sustained a few weeks ago. But we know that they have the depth to almost really just not skip a beat. So not feeling super confident, especially when you look to our side of the ball and there's no Driussi and there's no Heinzike and there's no Valencia. So unless, I don't have much to add on LA. Again, I guess outside of the fact they also welcomed back Carlos Vela before Friday's roster freeze deadline because he was a free agent. So just adding 35-year-old Carlos Vela to their arsenal up front. I don't think we will see him active on Wednesday, but it would be just our luck, that he's ready to go. So again, but we also, unless you have anything to add on LA, we have some lineup changes to make.
Yep. Are you asking me about the lineup changes or
what if you have anything on LAFC that you want to talk about?
They're better than us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So Driussi out.
Yeah.
Obviously we can't really go to the false 9 lineup there. So I think you're slotting Owen in there, right? I would assume. It could because you have no Johan.
Yep.
So Alex, Danny, and Owen in the midfield. I think it's probably Giassi up top, right? He came off with about 20 minutes to go on Saturday. And Diego Rubio, I don't think has started since he got his knee drained back in May, right? So I'm not predicting a Diego start up top. Bukhari, I think, is out there for sure. Hodder or John, I could go either way. I think I prefer John, especially if Hodder is not good on the left. If that is something that coaches have considered for him this season, again, I know he starts over there when we need him to, but if we don't need him to this game, I would rather go John over there. And then you got to replace Heinzike on the back line. And if the stuff about Svatak in his hometown, if all of that unfortunate speculation is true, I don't expect to see him here either. So I don't expect Leo to come from being the 5th center back to a starter. So I think it's Hedges and Julio. But, I would love for it to be Svatak's grand debut and him start next to Julio or Hedges and Austin pull something off miraculous here. I just don't see it. I think it's Julio. I think it's Hedges. I think it's the typical fullbacks in Stuver. So, it's really not that new. You just, again, you lose some of that depth, especially in the midfield. With losing number 10 and also and losing 5, you lose the Punisher, you just have less options. Yeah. And if we're going to maybe try to go more defensive in this match with Driussi and try to pull out the 1-0 smash and grab, or again, even a draw at this point, if you can pick up 9 points at home, you get a draw here, then you only need a draw at Portland or LA. And we know that this team can succeed trying to get a draw on the road. So again, I do think we see us go ultra conservative here, even down the pieces, because there's just no way we can get into a pissing match with LAFC.
Absolutely not. And like you said, despite we know the limitations of Johan, but it is just a piece removed from a now already depleted midfield. If this is the case with Svatak, bro, and he's just not prepared and he's not in the right mental headspace to play, and it's totally justified. I don't want to act like it's not. Then don't put him on the team.
For sure.
Why is he coming? If he's not ready to go, why is he coming? Leo has to be in there. If that's the case for me, like he has to be on the bench. If Fatah cannot go, I'll take Julio, slot it in for Heinzike. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I probably would still prefer Leo over Hedges. You know what I mean? Like he's younger. He's more athletic. He should profile as a better player. So like I would take that and kind of welcome that. What's that?
We ain't getting that though.
I understand.
He's not going from fifth center, and like to me, there's something going on there.
Something is going on with him, and like we were wondering and curious about what was going on with him a couple weeks ago because we were like, this was the guy we thought was going to be our CB1, and now he's our CB fucking 5, and that is so depressing. Hot Air, find that spot on the bench again, bro. Go ahead, warm it up, get the water bottles ready. You had your chance. You had your fucking chance, dude. You had so many opportunities to help your team win a game or secure a point, and you blew every single one of them. And if I'm going to hold Johnny to the standard where it's like if you're not performing, you need to be benched, then I'm going to hold you to that, Hot Air, because it might have been his worst game of the year.
It wasn't great.
It might have been his worst game of the season, dude. When you look at the opportunities he had and what they looked like, it might have been his worst game of the season. So find your ass a spot back on the bench. Let's get Johnny back in. If the baby thing was something that was taken into account and moving Johnny back to the bench, good, fine. That's over now. Get him back in the lineup. So I'm right there with you. I want Hyder back on the bench. He shit the bed.
I just don't. We've seen him finish those goals, whether they get called back or not, right? You remember at the beginning of the season, he scored like 3 fucking goals, kept getting called back. Like, he's better than that. Yeah. And it's just like, it was the absolute wrong time for him to have, as you said, like one of, if not his worst performance of the year. One thing left to do, I guess the one note I had here, Los Verdes has a watch party for Wednesday, Parlor and Yard on West 6th. I thought it was rich. Whether they're putting this in there for the giggles or it's just a happy coincidence that the Not a Damn Chance burger will be available until midnight. Come on, somebody's doing that for a joke, right?
When our chances run out at midnight. At least they're extending it to midnight.
Right? Yes, because very generous.
It might not be generous. But fuck all that.
Yeah, how much is Austin FC winning by on Wednesday, E?
We're getting a point. We're getting a draw. Fuck all that noise. Give me a 2-2 draw.
Oh, we're scoring 2?
Actually, no. I rescind. There's only one way we're getting a draw, and if that is, it's going to be the ugliest, dirtiest, nastiest kind of style of game. So I'll say 1-1. I'll give me a 1-1 draw, and it gives us a little hope. A little. There you
go. Yeah. All right, well, I'm not so rosy here.
Fair.
Yeah.
You haven't any therapy juice yet.
Give me one of those Monday Millers. I got 3-1 LAFC. I do think we're going to have Buka out there. I think, again, he's going to create opportunities for himself, for his teammates. They might be and probably will be very few. But I do think we get one across the line, and I think LAFC gets multiple goals across the line here, as they tend to do. But I like your prediction better. And again, a point or 3. 3, we're coming back here on Thursday and talking ourselves into this shit again.
We're deleting this episode.
Oh, man. So Wednesday, 9:40 p.m. kickoff there. All right, let's move along here. We'll check in on
the best keeper in the world.
It's me going into a snack cupboard. Getting some goldfish.
From our resident Louisville City fan, Trevor Allison, shout out to Trevor, gives us the Damian update, said not much for Damian to do in the 1-0 victory over Tulsa on Tulsa's baseball field. We should be very happy he came out without injury, as one of the goal boxes is basically in the infield of the baseball diamond and covered with temporary sod. It's one of the stranger baseball field layouts with only about half the pitch in the outfield grass, and one of the corners is not visible with the standard camera. He slipped once on a free kick, but seemed to be okay. No saves due to no shots on target. A few crosses were in good spots, but the finishing for Tulsa was poor. Seemed less aggressive than usual on grabbing crosses, but I think the field conditions had a lot to do with it. They also didn't pass back much to Damian either. Overall, a pretty uneventful clean sheet where Louisville City controlled the match despite having less possession. Any threatening attacks ended in bad shots going way past or over the goal. And Trevor notes the next Louisville City match is at Detroit City this coming Sunday, 2 p.m. ESPN 2. So National Damian.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
We'll take that 1-0 win there for our boys in Louisville.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's Lost Business Day.
I don't need Monday Millers. I just need to watch that video. Just give me the last business day here. And man, yeah, we can smile for this one because at least for one more week, the streak continues. The Houston Dynamo franchise still has failed to bring a single point back home to Houston. Double birds abound. And we did have some significant changes in the FCTO starting group for this one. First of all, in net, you get Aaron Cervantes in there, Marcus Allstrup to the bench. Then reported on the broadcast, which had some issues at the start. I think most people missed the opening goal if you were watching on Apple TV because they had the little screen up there that said the match was over. But they reported at the beginning, Sal Mazzaferro caught a red card after the final whistle against Minnesota. So he was out, which slid Antonio Gomez to center back, Shaik Touré back into the lineup at right back. Then we had the return of Jimmy to the lineup and Diego Abarca not in the team. So not sure what's going on with Diego, but good to see Jimmy back and fit to start.
Good for
we also
Sal.
had and we also had CJ.
If there was
available.
one game.
Sorry, I mean,
not to interrupt.
No. I mean, I thought it when I heard that.
If there was one game to go ahead and get yourself thrown out after the game was over, it was that Minnesota game.
Yeah. I know our buddy Reglis was in the comments after that one saying, that next pro ref was fucking horrible. So it wasn't just us being lunatics. 5th minute, I should say, CJ was available off the bench. Peter Grogan also available on the bench. So you like to see both of those things and get it started early on. Like I mentioned, 5th minute, Alonso steps in front of a pass in the midfield, taps it to Irvin Torres. He scoots it along to Jimmy out wide on the right, and Jimmy took a big touch down that right side towards the edge of the 18. He fires across that, gets past Xavier Valdez, right? Valdez is one of the better keepers in Next Pro, but not so here. I thought he could have done better. Well, we'll take it. Micah's there waiting to clean it up, heads it home, opening goal. Great finish, great start.
Yes, absolutely. And like as much as we've wanted Sebas up there, Micah's been incredible up there. He's just been finding ways to score goals. Let me ask you this. It just came up in my head here when you mentioned Alonso. Does he have a call-up left?
No. So, I know.
Well, like
I think he may have a call-up, but he already used his 2 appearances.
Okay. Because potentially you could, we're going to need some midfield help here, in this game. And I've had worse ideas.
No, for sure. 16th minute. Again, maybe the only bad news on the night. Jimmy comes out in the 16th minute. Anthony De Honda comes in, plays wing for the rest of the first half. I think I heard after the match that it was a minor knock and not expected to be some sort of long-term issue for Jimmy, but you don't want to see that during the playoff push, especially I think he maybe just by me, but a little overshadowed because of how good CJ has been lately. that connection is a two-way street. Jimmy has been great too.
Absolutely. Definitely wishing him the best.
43rd minute, Houston picks up a red card to, what was the guy's name? Wakutia, something like that. But I think it was a second yellow here. I think that the broadcaster said that it was just a straight red. Anyways, that it was for dissent. But again, I think it was second yellow there. But up 1-0, they go down, and man, you're feeling real good going into the half. You get a double change out of the half. Chris Garcia comes in for Anthony Garcia. I think that's the first time we've seen those guys go like for like this season. So Garcia for Garcia, then CJ for Ruben. So you move Anthony back to that left back spot and CJ up there on the left. 56th minute, Chris Garcia, great through ball here to Micah Burton, who's just by himself against Valdez, and Valdez takes him out as Micah goes around him and is getting ready to just walk it in. So PK correctly given. Alonso takes this, pings it off the underside of the crossbar. Yeah, I think hit the bar twice, but did bounce past that line. So 2-0 lead. And then 7 minutes later, great through ball here by Alonso to play Irvin Torres into the 18 down the left. Good cross across the face of net. Micah there to clean it up out of the air. He's got a brace. 3-0 lead. And the party is on at Parma. And man, the fans did show out for this one.
Yes, they did. And like we said, this matchup has always been highly contested. We've had plenty of red cards in these games, and you get one here as well. Micah, like I mentioned earlier in this, right before we started here, finding ways to be in front of the net, to finish, to be calm, composed, also draws that PK in very nice fashion. So just kudos all around to all the FC Toe boys making this final push here to find their way into the playoffs at next pro level.
You did get one last sub here in the 80th minute. Steve came in for Alonso. Good to see Steve getting some action out there. And then in the 2nd minute of stoppage, literally 10 seconds rather from the final whistle, Houston, their Lucas Brugman, 15 years old, scores a very nice goal here just right before the final whistle to keep Austin and Aaron Cervantes from the clean sheet. So 3-1, that's the lone blemish there. And sometimes you got to credit the other team, man. It was a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I mean, we also took the foot off the gas pedal. That game was well in hand.
For sure. So I do have a little academy update here before we shut things down. U14s playing Albion ECNL out of Houston. 6-0 for the good guys. Brady Tyler with the assist to Marshall. Marshall got an assist to Toby's goal. Carlos assist to Luke. Jaden scores off a rebound. Santi converted a PK. The U13 player, Braden, comes in, converts a PK, and gets an assist to Chuka. We're naming half the team here. 6 goals. I guess everybody gets a taste.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone's getting a little shout out here.
Right?
Good on them.
Yeah, and then you take a look at – I'm trying to pull up the rest of these results here. Okay, that's not going to show. The only other one that I have access to right here is the U15s. They take a 5-3 loss to that same club, the Albion ECNL. So, again, 1-1 for the results that we had here, but we'll keep our eyes on the academy, of course, throughout the season. And still a decent start, especially those U14s, man, 6-0. I don't care who you're playing. That's a beatdown.
Yeah, these are a lot of goals scored in these games. Seems
absolutely fun. Exciting stuff. So FC Toe back in action Sunday, 7:45 p.m. up there on the road. Final road match of the season, North Texas SC. That is the top seed in the West. They've got 54 points from their 25 matches. Again, we're 20 points back of them. But, I mean, look, we've only scored 6 less goals, right? They've only allowed 28. Which is not even the best in the league. So, again, I think this Western Conference table, much closer than sometimes the standings would appear. I think it is a winnable match, especially if Jimmy's able to come back, if CJ is full go. I feel good about their chances going up there, even on the road. And now with the win, Austin tied on points with Sporting KC2 in 8th. Sporting KC2 has 2 wins in hand, right, for that tiebreaker. So we will have to outscore them in terms of points over the last 3 matches of the season here, but you have put yourself right in the thick of things, right? You have kept up. You've got the wins that you've needed to overcome a couple of the hurdles here. And they're just 2 points back of the 7 seed. So 3 matches to go, 2 of them at home. Feeling good about this team.
I definitely feel really good about our chances here to sneak into these playoffs.
And then look, in these next pro playoffs,
yeah,
you choose your opponent.
That's right.
Come choose us. You see what happens last year.
Yeah.
Come choose us. Got to get in first. Cheering those boys on. We'll preview the North Texas match on Thursday's episode, and that'll do it for us here on today's edition of the North End Podcast. Almost an hour and a half here, E. It's a busy week. Anything else for you before we shut it down?
No, sir. Got everything out.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 174 of the North End Podcast. Back on Thursday, recapping the LAFC match, previewing the Houston match, the North Texas SC match for FCito, and talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the middle of your week, everybody. We'll try to do the same, and we'll see you back here on Thursday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.